All right.
Yesterday.
Did you?
These are for people that don't get
better at it, huh?
recordings, for people that don't get to
Yeah. Next time.
be a part of this live. Hopefully this community continues to grow. But welcome to Rebound Live. And today we're talking about culture. And if I didn't start on time, what kind of culture would I be creating, right? So if we get in the habit of doing that, then people every week, every month will be that care to will be coming on at 8 o'clock Eastern time. We're going to discuss how to develop a world-class culture. I was blessed to have played high school basketball for Bob McKillop, who's now the head coach at Davidson College, and Dean Smith at North Carolina. And then I worked for Bob at Davidson and Roy Williams at Kansas. I've been a part of great cultures, and I try to apply these cultures to the places I've worked as a head coach, with some success and some failure.
Was it too cold for you yesterday?
The same.
Was it too cold for you outside yesterday?
Last month, I discussed STEVIT, the 6 No's of leadership, and we touched on S, the self, getting to know ourselves. Well, today we need to touch on the E in STEVIT, environment, because you have to be aware of your environment when you're taking over a program or you're starting a new program. And managing change is an art form. Culture is easy to feel, but hard to explain. It's like the difference between Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. You know, you go into a Starbucks and you feel different than you do when you walk into a Dunkin' Donuts. And why is that? You feel it. You can explain some of it. It's the smells, the greetings, the barristers, etc. And then,
Great, you're good.
if we could put our mics on mute,
Because you brush your teeth. Because you brush your teeth.
if you can mute your mics, thank you.
You're good. Fresh.
Maybe I guess I can control that too. So I think, you know, what culture fits you and your organization, and how can you intentionally drive it? That's the key. I think most people hire like-minded individuals and assume that the culture will take hold. But once you grow beyond 3 people, forget about it. It needs to be intentional. Looking back at Dean Smith, it was so intentionally driven. We had daily huddles at practice where we would discuss the emphasis of the day. And the emphasis of the day never had anything to do with scoring. It had to do with the behaviors that he wanted driven that resulted in winning. And it were things like hit the first open man you saw, run the floor, dive on loose balls. And he would stop practice when you did those things and praise you. He would also stop practice and slap you on the wrist if you didn't.
On the rifle game today?
Yeah.
It's gonna work though.
So out of core values comes your behaviors that are supported by these values.
Hey, Billy Thomas, could you please mute your mic?
I appreciate that. I should be able to do that myself. I'm set up. I'm unmuting myself, and I'm muting myself, and some of you would like that, but so David Friedman wrote a book about culture called Culture by Design. And I'm a Vistage chair, and David spoke to a group as I was onboarding. And then first thing I did, I wanted him to speak to my group, because he does the best job of anybody that I've heard discuss how to create a world-class culture. And again, his book is Culture by Design. And in a minute, I'll talk about, you know, some of the steps that he discusses. He's in New Jersey and studied Ritz-Carlton and how they created their culture and brought it to his company and then has brought it to other companies as a result. So I really want this to be interactive. I want this webcast. We've got 16 people and I hope it continues to grow. If you have a question or a thought, I want you to raise your hand with the hand, the Zoom hand, if you will, and then you get into the queue. There you go, Brian Moran. Now you're in front of the line. My buddy from New Jersey, Hohokus, originally from Rockville Center. Brian, what do you got for us?
Oh, so hello, Matt. Good morning, everybody. I'd love to talk about culture, regardless of the size of your company. I mean, there seems to be, it really seems to be challenged these days. I work with a lot of businesses, and my company does, and that seems to be kind of, as we delve into some of their issues, culture seems to be kind of one of those hidden issues that a lot of companies don't realize that it's a problem, with the pandemic, with, do I get a vaccination? Do I not get a vaccination? It's really kind of polarized. Some companies working remotely versus working in the office. Culture seems to be fractured in a lot of businesses. Some places where it was great to work at before the pandemic, it's now a real struggle because some people work remotely, some people are going back to the office, some people are getting vaxxed, some people aren't. And I get a lot of clients that ask me, how do I fix it? And, or the companies that really never had a great company culture are saying, how do I get one? And I'd love to hear from at least some of the other participants. What are some best practices about either maintaining their culture or developing, turning a negative into a positive? Or as my dad used to say, how do I turn chicken shit into chicken salad?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brian. Hey, I'm going to challenge everybody to be on camera. I really don't want this to be just a listen in. I want to see your faces. I want to be able to see your reaction. 50% of communication's body language. And if I can't see you, then I don't know how you're reacting. And if you're driving, I get it. Just put it on mute. But, I love to see your lovely faces like Ron Hollis in Austin, Texas. Anybody can chime in on what Brian's discussing, the challenge of creating a culture in the COVID times where we're out of office virtually. That's a challenge. Anybody have some thoughts on that?
Yeah. If you go down to the bottom of the screen where it says reactions, if you just hover your mouse over it, it'll say raise your hand like that. And you see all of a sudden the hand pops up. And then when you're done, you just lower your hand. So it makes it real easy to call on people.
Yep. All right, David, thank you very much. David.
Yes, good morning, everyone. For the remote work aspect of culture, I think that's very pertinent right now. We've run into a lot of the similar issues where due to the quarantine, due to self-isolation during the pandemic, it's really broken the sense of community. And it's really made it a lot more difficult to maintain and run teams that are going to be able to interact and get along with each other as easy as they did in the past. One of the ways that we tried to work through that was we tried to have social distance, safe offsite events whenever possible, if people were comfortable with that. We didn't bring up their status of what they've done medically, but we were trying to keep it safe from the aspect of if you have any fever or anything like that, don't come. We also did, of course, the virtual get-togethers as much as we could, just so that everybody could see each other's face on the screen, much like Coach is doing today, where we had video live. But it's definitely something I think companies are going to continue to struggle with, because I don't know if we're ever going to go back to a 5-day in the office, 8 to 5 every day. So I'd be interested in hearing what everybody else has been experiencing too.
David, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Ray.
You know, it's interesting when we started this COVID planning and working from home. I always ran a global company, so all my people were all over the world. And I think there's one thing that you always have to set when you're trying to get the environment is the goals. The goals haven't changed. So you're having employees, you're driving your company, you're driving your revenue, you're driving your success, you're setting up a positive attitude. All of those haven't changed from the time that we were in the office to the time that we're now remote. If you don't set the goals, all of a sudden your employees are all over the place. I look at my business and I hear a lot of problems going on with other companies as I consult them. And most of it is because people aren't hitting their numbers, aren't doing their job to the fullest. They don't know where they are at the office. I mean, I was at the golf event yesterday, and part of the conversation was how everybody's got these mice that just jiggle to keep them logged into their computers. So people think they're there. You know, there's the goals. You've set the wrong attitude in your company when you got to get a jiggling mouse. And of course, I went on Amazon looking at that. I'm like, damn, I can get one of those. Too bad I use a finger pad. I don't know how I can have to set it underneath my computer to jiggle it. But to keep
the jiggling mouse.
The jiggling mouse.
There's something there. There's a book there. There's a podcast there. There's something there. The jiggling mouse.
But I do think, you know, setting the goals, they haven't changed. Your environment of your company hopefully hasn't changed, except for a little bit. What you do when you're remote, you know, vaccines and all those other things have brought us to a new area. But your company's mission statement, your company's goals, all have to still be the same. And how do you succeed in setting the direction for your employees to get to the next level? And it's harder now when you hire somebody new and you've never met them. And you go 8 months and they've never met any team members. But you got to set a plan for them.
Being creative is probably the biggest. I mean, it's an opportunity. I mean, I look at it so much. I talk about leaderships like golf. When you hit it into the woods, is that, you know, are you looking at it as an opportunity or like, oh, woe is me? And you know, is it a crutch? Now you have an excuse, or is this really an opportunity for ourselves to separate ourselves from the competition? So I think it's all about perspective, and that as a leader is how you got to drive it. Brian, your hand's raised. You're next in queue, and then Kaz, is it Kaz team? What's your name?
So I work with Eric over at Sportsypreneur.
Okay.
And my name's Mitch Ford.
Mitch. Okay, thanks,
Yeah.
Mitch. You're next, then Ron.
So
no.
Matt, when I hit it into the woods, I try and hit like my company name. I put my company name on the golf ball, and I call that marketing and promotions.
There you go.
So somebody else finds my ball, and I get to write that off. So,
You know, you're a really good marketer, I hear. Yeah.
all day, every day. I
Yeah.
call it it's like a break too, you know, a nature walk for me.
Yeah.
You know, I heard some interesting things from companies during the pandemic. And Matt, you and I have a mutual friend in Jeff Foster down in North Carolina.
Yes.
And he has probably mastered the art of company culture better than almost any business leader that I've seen during the pandemic. And he has, I don't know, what does he have, about 40 or 50 employees. And he makes sure that they all connect with each other, regardless of what department they're in, at least once a week. And they talk about things that they're struggling with. You know, there's a real sense of team in his company and a real sense of kind of like working together, like we're all in this together. And he said one woman talked about how it's just so hard because her kids are being homeschooled. And, you know, one of them's taking calculus and she doesn't have any idea about calculus. And he had an engineer in his company. He said, I'd be happy to tutor them. You know, wow. He said, you know, I obviously I'm an engineer and I know calculus and that's easy for me. And so, you know, a couple of times a week, he would tutor their kids in calculus. You know, and somebody else said, oh, you know, I struggle to get out and, pick up prescriptions, and somebody else said, I'm happy to pick them up and drop them off for you. And really what that's done is, and he let them do it. It's like a community user group. I have this, I need that.
How does that occur? What technology do they use? Is it like a community lunch where everyone eats lunch on Zoom? Is it an app? Is it a teamwork app? How do they get that done?
He started it off as a Zoom conference call, and then it's just, I think they might be on Slack now, and they just all kind of connect and they check in with each other, and he let it happen naturally. Now, here's the key that we realized with his group is he had an unusually high amount of employees that were considered to be either engaged or actively engaged in their company, meaning that they were excited to get up and go to work each morning, or, they had very positive feelings about going to work, versus people who are either disengaged or actively disengaged. And they don't give a crap about work. It's a pain to get up in the morning to go to work, and that's your bad apples. And so we started using that kind of formula, and Gallup does it. Gallup does a whole poll on it. And what's amazing about this is before the pandemic, they said 1/3 of all employees were either engaged or actively engaged. 1/3, meaning 2/3 of your employees were either disengaged or actively disengaged. That was before the pandemic, and that was the highest number it had been in 20 years.
Wow.
So what does that tell you about your company? That's what I mean. That culture is such an important topic, because I think people don't realize how much that is creating a cracked foundation in your business.
Well, the culture, that again is a soft skill, a human skill, as Simon Sinek's calling it. It drives profit. It drives profit to the bottom line. Mitch, we just lost you, Mitch. Where'd you go, my man?
I am right here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, gotcha. I'm sorry. Brian dropped his hand and you slid over a box. I feel like I'm watching the Brady Bunch on steroids. Or go ahead.
Yeah, all's well.
I dated myself right there. Anybody in the 55 and older crowd can relate. Go ahead.
So I'm in the marketing world, so I have a little more content swing to this. One thing, I work with a marketing agency and we work with different clients, and just having each of your employees even write a blog, record themselves for a few minutes, add it to a newsletter, all these different things, it lets you dive into who these people really are. So for me, I played college basketball. I worked for the Hornets and the Mavericks and University of Buffalo. So nobody knows that I like to draw. Nobody knows that I like to hike. Well, when you have those connecting points between maybe me, who I like to do that stuff, and somebody else who secretly or unknowingly has that same hobby, that's a point where you can connect with your teammates, and it's a point where you can connect with other people in your company. So I mean, I could talk for days and days about content creation, but I mean, having good stuff on social media, having good content to send out to your employees, like for me as a future business owner, I'm hoping my thing that I've kind of told myself is, for every employee that I have, I'll send them 2 things a week that are custom to them, 2 articles, podcasts that I listen to, quotes, whatever it is, send those things custom to that specific employee. And again, maybe that's unrealistic, but that's kind of in my business plan. And I think that really helps cultivate culture for sure.
Now, how do you ensure, that's great stuff, Mitch. I love it. And let me ask Mitch, how old are you?
27.
All right. I love it. Because we talk about generations, and we've talked last month about mentoring, and most people think of mentoring as mentoring down from the older to the younger generation. And David Force, who's on the call, we talked about mentoring up, like you and mentoring you at 27, mentoring to me at 59. Like, we need to ask the younger generation, we need their input, because that's an unbelievable concept. I think that's a great idea. Bingo, bam. I'm writing all these down. Blogs regarding sharing, content creation, social media. People lean into that. That's good stuff.
And one thing that I think is a little underrated is, I was talking with an ex-coach last night, and he's probably.
Well, there's never an ex-coach. It's like the military. Once a Marine, always a Marine.
Yes.
Once a coach, always a coach, Mitch.
Yes,
right, David
sure.
Van Daff? I see you laughing there.
No doubt about it. But he was posting videos. He said, I want to share my old content, and like people aren't engaging with it. I'm like, well, it's because it's a video from 2008 and it's ruffled and it's probably taken on a picture phone.
Right.
It's one of those things. If you can say the same thing over again with an iPhone setup, and I promise you it'll be really clear, and you can make it look really good and grow your brand from an aesthetic standpoint. And then you're just naturally going to catch the eye of more people when you are creating content.
Gotcha. And is this what you do, Mitch? Is this your business? Is this kind of in line with what you do, that content creation? And
yeah, absolutely. So what my name was CAS-CM. It's content marketing.
Gotcha.
Then I mentioned earlier, I work with Eric over at Sportsepreneur. I know he had you on a podcast before.
Mm-hmm.
So
Gotcha.
That's kind of why.
Gotcha. If people wanted to reach out to you, why don't you put your email or your website in the chat? That's good stuff.
David, we do follow each other.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mitch. If you could drop your hand, and we'll go to Ron Hollis out of Austin, Texas.
Good morning. When it comes to culture, I'm a culture of safety. That's why I'm behind the wheel, driving and listening. I like to drive a culture of safety. No,
You're so full of shit. I love it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know if this was going to be like, if I was going to be able to be like PG-13.
PG-13. I think PG-13.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really like NC-17, but we'll keep it PG-13. But in all honesty, thank you for sending out this invite. I'm glad that I was able to make it. I've got a court date this morning, so I may have to pop out a little bit early. But when it comes to culture, I think that one of the challenges that I hear and that I see a lot is, and frankly, I think if your culture is not good, it's probably because you have people that feel like they're continuously under threat and they're confused. And so you compound that with a pandemic and the reentry into society and what's happening with people from a mental illness perspective, from a cultural shift perspective, and just overall not knowing, which way is up. You have a real mess on your hands. And so I think, you have to open up your organization to a lot of different possibilities. You have to rethink the way in which that everyone engages with one another. And I think you need to make it clear. I think you need to put a plan together. If you don't have a plan, someone said at the beginning, you got to have goals. And I agree, you've got to have goals, but those goals have to be very tactical in nature, because you have to eliminate the confusion to increase the comfort, right? And if you can increase the comfort, you can increase the performance.
Can you repeat that comment about increasing the comfort? The clarity.
You have to increase. You have to, number one, people are under threat. Okay, and when people are under threat, they act wobbly. Right, the underlying idea that you're continuously under threat puts you in a position to make bad decisions because you're scrambling. So you have to have a goal, and then that goal has to be very, very tactical. It needs to be articulated. It needs to be very clear what that goal is. Then you have to say, hey, and then you have to put together a tactical framework that says, how do you get to this particular goal? They may know it, right? But the whole environment's changed. It's like this notion of people move my cheese. Now what the hell do I do? Right? So there has to be clarity. You have to be able to communicate, and then you have to be able to collaborate. And so you're seeing what I'm seeing, right, in the ecosystem is these new collaboration pieces that are coming up on board. So it's a whole new layer of the technology stack in these organizations. There's a handful of them. I'm not here to self-promote, but like I happen to work for one of them, right? It's way more robust than like using the Zoom or using Teams. It's allowing people to actually really come together to problem solve within their organization, right? And that's the issue right now. Is people don't know what the hell is going on, and they're trying to figure out how to collaborate to problem solve. So we can make an adjustment, and it's not a this huge 180. That's 2 degrees. I need to move 2 degrees. That's it, because that's all I could handle, frankly.
Yeah.
I got all this. Whoever mentioned all the other sundry stuff that's going on in people's lives, right? I think you've only, I think you're looking into people's lives that much. That's all you're seeing.
Yeah.
I can promise you, it's much more chaotic, and they're much more confused.
Yeah. That's good.
So I mean, I think that stuff is if you have cultural issues, you need to create some clarity in your organization. You need to get honest with your people and put a plan together to help them get out of that confusion.
Yeah. Ron, that's good stuff. Can you put your email, your company website in the chat?
Yes.
If people want to reach out to you? Jed Dalton, I want to see your camera, Jed. I need to see your good looking face, Jed Dalton. All right, David Force, welcome back.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it, sir. When you sent that note out originally, being the theme of leadership, and I think what we're talking about today is just that in a big umbrella. But I've heard so much that falls under that umbrella today. I just want to encapsulate one thing. I always have believed that people apply for a job based upon the name on the front door, the name of the company. But people stick around because of how they're treated once they're in that company. In other words, the culture. And that's what the thing is right now, is the culture of the company. And the culture goes back to the leadership, which is what your key element is here today. And my mentor, my original coach, my track coach, told me the fact that leadership requires 3 things: courage, initiation, and responsibility. And you realize of those 3 things, none of it is a skill set, which you inferred in your little video you mentioned the other day, that leadership, soft skills. It's all soft skills: courage, initiation, and responsibility. And what we're dealing with today is those 3 elements for any company to be successful. We've been forced into it because of this pandemic. As a result, there's been a tremendous shift, face-to-face meetings, getting all that kind of good stuff. We were forced into this. And people are some people are panicking. Some people are seeing it as opportunity, as you mentioned. We're in the woods. But my concern is, if people keep trying to get back to the way it had been, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
We used to watch black and white television. And my question is, the world's best black and white TV repairman, where is he today? Your culture has to evolve. It has to. So this is a great opportunity for people to evolve and force the issue of, instead of trying to get back to the way we had done things so wonderfully, well, that's changed. Let's move forward. We don't have slide rules anymore. We've got to move forward and progress with it. And a great leader sees this as an opportunity. And I want to touch on something that Ron had said, as far as, people being concerned to say, it's because most companies do not create a risk-free environment. And by risk-free, I mean people aren't afraid to make a mistake. They're not afraid to try something and see if it works. When you're out there hitting a golf ball, are you trying to avoid the woods, or are you trying to put it in the fairway? If you go about life trying to avoid things and thinking negative, you got a problem to begin with. Focus on the positives, focus on what you're going to do right. Yeah. And I like the idea that Mitch was saying with the little hobbies. I had done that when I opened the Mortgage Wonderland, a theme park, the special needs theme park in San Antonio. Of course, everybody had name tags, but I made people put under their name what their hobby was, what their interest is. And the purpose was to create a conversation. So, I was a Spurs fan. I'll be ready to admit that. and I just said Spurs ecologist, the study of the Spurs, which then would create people like, what do you mean by that? It starts a conversation, but it also forced us as employees to also recognize this guy collects model cars. Never knew that. Like Mitch was saying, you learn about other people other than what their skill set is. Right now, in most companies, people identify with their skill set, their skills, their knowledge and ability, not their soft skills, not their leadership. And we've got to get to the point where we embrace that and create a culture where we are trying to learn and we create a risk-free environment. Celebrate those things that you learned today. I didn't make a mistake. I had a learning opportunity. And what I would do at that park that I was building was brand new. At the end of every day, we'd have a closeout meeting. And it was, what did you learn today? What did you learn you can't do anymore? Oh man, what I screwed up today? I learned I can't do this. And so we're sharing with each other what was not working, not for the purpose of being negative, but to demonstrate we are all learning every single day. And it's a risk-free environment. And that creates the culture of your company that people want to work with you because I'm not afraid to make a mistake. And by being innovative and by trying to do that initiation, we're moving the leadership and the culture forward. And you're going to attract people that want to play in that type of environment, risk-free environment.
Yeah, David, that's awesome stuff. Thank you. David ran SeaWorld in San Antonio and just is a wealth of knowledge and talks about behavior. And, David, if you just put your email and or your website in the chat for people, if they want to get in touch with you. When you were talking, it gave me a memory of Coach Dean Smith. And as I was thinking of that, Jed Dalton, welcome to the group, Jed. All right, buddy. Glad you finally see your good looking face. You combed your hair. We're ready to go. Jed played for Coach Smith. He was the original 23 at North Carolina. And then somebody a little more famous took the jersey, and there were a lot of points left in that jersey when Jed retired, right? Yeah. So anyway, when you were talking, David, it reminded me of Coach Smith. It's all how you view this opportunity. It's an opportunity. And Coach Smith, we were down 10 points to Virginia with 5 minutes to go at home. And he called timeout, and we're sitting there, and he smiles. And he said, wouldn't it be fun to come back and win this game? Like, there was no panic.
Yeah.
And so you talk about courage. So in the face of adversity, he displayed courage by being calm. He took the initiation to call the timeout and manage our thoughts, and obviously responsibility. He was responsible for the team. And so, and you practice these things, but you have to have an environment, like you say, where it's risk-free. Like, what are your fears? What did we learn? How can we do better? That's what this call's all about. I mean, I'm writing down a bunch of things. Mitch was real helpful with his comments about blogs and sharing and content creation. And then Ron, and we're talking about hobbies. Maybe next time you have a Zoom call, you ask people to hold up signs with their favorite song, or what their, I don't know, where are their grandparents from? Just something that goes deeper to get people to want to go on these damn calls. Anyway, David Van Daff. David was a manager on the basketball team at Kansas in the 90s when I was working there. And so good to see you, David. What do you have for us?
Good to see you, Coach. David Forrest set me up perfectly. I actually Mitch did too, and you did as well. I took over a team of 16 at the beginning of the pandemic via acquisition. I haven't met any of them yet. So we've gone a year and a half. It's all been Zoom calls, all virtual, phone calls, everything. Been challenging, difficult, etc. When I took over the team, though, I originally thought to myself, I've got to be able to get to know these people and then remember information about them. I don't want to get caught off guard a year from now when I meet them in person and not recognize the fact that, oh, you have kids. Oh, you're interested in this and that. Oh, these are your hobbies, etc. So I created a cheat sheet. I did 10 questions. name, spouse's name, kids, pets, favorite color, favorite movies, favorite songs, all those things that we were talking about, kept it to 10 and decided I'm going to use this as a cheat sheet. Anytime I'm talking to that person, I can pull it out and say, hey, how's your son Sam doing in baseball, or something to that degree, and just show that there's something beyond work, that I've gotten to know this person, created a culture somewhat. What I found, and the reason I'm talking about this, is after we went through, well, what I did was every Monday I have a team call. Last 15 minutes I dedicate to the team call, where I turn it over to somebody to present their questions. And I thought it was going to be a drag for them initially, but it was going to be a great help for me. What I found is that people really enjoy taking the last 15 minutes of a call, talking about themselves, and for the other team members to get to know them. Some of the other team members have known these people for a couple of years, had no idea some of the important information related to family or background or anything to that degree. So we went through the list of 10 questions. At the end of the 16 weeks, everybody said, hey, we'd love to do this again. So I created another list of 10 questions. We're on our 4th round of questions, and really? They eat it up completely. Everybody loves it. They enjoy it. We had a section in there about what's something that you cook well. And everybody's really gotten into that and shared it. Now they want to create a cookbook for the holidays where everybody provides their recipes, et cetera, et cetera. It's been a great win for us, and it's been able to create a culture beyond work, and for a whole bunch of team members sitting in front of a Zoom call to get to know each other. And some of it also ties into, most people don't like to turn on the camera, like you talked about before, right? We like to put on a shirt, it's not comb our hair, anything like that.
Yeah.
We've gotten used to the fact that we don't need to do it. It's great to do it. It's great to do it on a team call environment for everybody to see each other, look at each other, and see smiles and facial expressions, et cetera.
That's right, Mojo, right? Turn that camera back on, Mojo. Hollis.
I'll say is this, and you know, there were a bunch of great leadership tips, obviously, from your book, Coach. But one of the things that stands out for me is the Troy Murphy key to the pit. The small little win, looking for opportunities that are minor in the scope of the success of the business, but seek out those opportunities and then pursue them with vigor to try and get them done, and create that that trust, that bond with your employees, et cetera, to show, hey, I really care about you. You need a new mouse, you need a new microphone, you need a day off, whatever it may be. Look for those small wins and embrace them and push them.
That's awesome, David. That's awesome stuff. David, please put in the chat your email, your
Sure.
company website if people need to get in touch with you. I know that I'd love for you to share your cheat sheet if you're willing to.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's something. This is what's so cool about this right here. The Rebound Live webcast is you could take that and put that to work in your organization today and get immediate results. That's what this is all about, man. That's so cool. Thank you, David.
You got it.
Yeah. Brian, you're back.
I am. I got to tell you, Matt, this is fantastic. And I hope that you have some sort of like highlight sheet that you attach to the webcast that people, because I write down a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of great content in here that you can share with your clients. Probably my biggest takeaway from this call right now is that when you pivot, whether it's 2 degrees or 180 degrees, you have to be proactive about it and not reactive. You know, it's like coming to a crossroad. Do I go left? Do I go right? Well, if you're thinking about that decision after you've made it, it's too late. Now you got to back up, and you lose time, you lose money. But if you think about that fork in the road before you come to it, you have a much greater chance of success. And so just a couple of takeaways here. Like, I love that you can't go back and the culture needs to evolve. You know, it's like you can't put the genie back in the bottle. So, okay, how do we move forward? I love that. Another takeaway was that things take time. You know, to David's point about, you know, creating that cheat sheet and not waiting a year and a half to learn about, whether somebody has kids or not. You know, it takes time to develop that culture in a company, right? And to learn about people. You want it to be natural and conversational. So don't try and force it. Don't say, okay, tell me everything about your family right now so that we can be best friends.
Right.
You know that all of that takes time. The one last thing I'll say is this, is that, and to David Force's point about having an environment where you can take chances and make mistakes, that's huge, but there has to be that balance and accountability, because you can't have people making the same mistakes over and over and over again. You know, then you become a fireman, right? Then you're just putting out the same fire without getting to the root cause of it. And I think about the Army. You know, the Army has come up a lot during the pandemic in my world. And you know, like they have a plan of attack, and all of a sudden they're halfway through the battle and their plan gets blown up, right? They call it the snafu situation, normal, all fucked up. And they reconvene and they go, okay, our goal hasn't changed. Our goal is to still capture that town or defeat that unit, but we're halfway into this and now we have half the resources. So let's reconvene. What do we still have intact? What part of the plan is completely blown up, and what part can we salvage? And then you create a new plan from your existing resources and you go back into battle. Like, that's almost the way that a leader needs to look at the pandemic, with all of the twists and the turns, right? And it's a lot of work on a leader to say, we're going to pivot to the right now, because we did our homework and this is the best plan, you know, for us to go forward. And whether that's working remotely or working hybrid, but people will follow a leader a lot of they're a lot more comfortable following a person than they are a plan. You know, it's got the person behind the plan. They got to have confidence. They have to have courage. And in today's world, they got to have empathy. That's like the new key word for leaders, that you understand what your people are going through. And I heard mental health come up a couple of times today. You know, people are dealing with a lot of shit. And a lot of times they're not in a position where they want to talk about it, but they're going through it and it's a struggle. And so if you can connect with somebody on a personal level as a leader and say, look, I know what you're going through, but I also know that you have it in you to achieve your goals and you're an integral part of this team. So I need you to get done what you need to get done, and tell me how I can help you otherwise. And this is the last thing I'll leave you with. You can't dip your toe into company culture. You either need to be all in or all out. You either need to be a boss and say, look, whatever you're going through, I can appreciate it, but don't bring it to work, right? This is 9 to 5. You're in my world. I need you to focus on your job when you're here. That's a boss. And there are companies where that's fine. But if you're going to be a leader and you're going to but you're going to delve into people's personal lives and find out what's going on, you can't do that half-assed. You either got to be all in or all out.
That's a good point. That's a good point. That's good. I think one of the things that struck me as you talked, Brian, and thank you for your input. And Brian's been a good friend of mine. You know, we just really connected probably within the last year. And I just love to learn. And Brian's got a lot of wisdom that he shares. I don't usually like giving him compliments, so I'll stop right there. He's really, and he went to a rival high school. He lives in a rich section of Long Island. I just really don't like his roots, but I'll deal with it. Anyway, we talk a lot in my Vistage coaching about working on your business, not in your business. And then the book Traction, which is about the entrepreneur's operating system, talks about the org chart and how you should have a visionary and then an implementer. And I think it's important for the owner, the leader, to be out of the weeds as much as possible, not worrying about the daily tasks. Now, it's easier said than done when it's a small business, but you got to elevate yourself up and look at the big picture and not at the sales number and the accounts receivable. What are the bigger issues? Working on your business, not in your business, so you can then allow your soft skills, your human skills to go to work. Your human skills are not going to be going to work if you got your head in a spreadsheet every day. And so anyway, that's my 2 cents there on that. The pivoting, you know, I mean, we talk about technology now, COVID, like your culture can be solid, but the behaviors have to change. Like we talk, David Friedman talks about the 8-step framework for creating a world-class culture. And first one is to define the behaviors. And the second one is to ritualize them. And then you got to select the right people, integrate hires, communicate, coach, model, accountability. But defining the behaviors now changed. Because now you're not maybe coming into the office. So what are the behaviors? You know, and I thought David Van Daff did a great job of, you know, there's got to be some new behaviors that drive your culture. And it's maybe how you sign on to a Zoom call. Maybe it's how you structure the Zoom call. And you have to be able to have the flexibility as a leader to.
That was National Coach of the Year.
Okay.
It's from Long Island.
Okay, I'm going to put you on mute there. Sorry about that. You know, that be able to have that flexibility. You know, you go into a game with a game plan that we're going to, you know, play man-to-man, pressure defense, and all of a sudden your best player gets hurt and your second best player is in foul trouble. Well, now you've got to be able to change and don't be, you know, some people are just like, this is the way we're doing it. This is the only way I know how to do it. And, you know, it's 3 yards in a cloud of dust and I don't care. You got to adjust. You got to be able to have some form of flexibility and sometimes ask your team. I used to love this, you know, in practice, the team would go, well, how do you want us to guard this action as we're going over a scout report? And I think sometimes it's good to say, I don't know. How do you want to guard it? And the players would come up with a way to guard us. I said, okay, let's do it that way. We're going to do it that way. Now, 1, I empowered them. 2, I showed them respect. 3, I talk about my core values, RTCP, respect, trust, commitment, positivity. They're going to be committed to doing it now. It's their way. So if it doesn't work, it's on them. And I think, hey guys, how do you want to have these meetings? What should be some things we should be doing now? Mining for the truth, developing that culture from within, and then they own it. And now they're going to hold each other accountable. Mitch, your hand went up pretty quickly when I mentioned something. What do you got for us?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one thing that I think the best coaches are the best facilitators. They're the best at putting people in the positions to succeed, giving them the opportunity to coach. And, you know, I know as a Dobo, you don't have a ton of responsibility. I mean,
tell everybody what a Dobo is. Tell everybody what a Dobo is and the college basketball level.
Yeah. So it's director of basketball operations. So it's every single thing you can imagine that's not exactly on the court skill coaching. It is travel, it is booking facilities, it is dealing with the managers, all the food, all the.
It's the shit job. It's the shit job to get into coaching.
It's the shit job, but.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it is. And the one thing that I learned and I implemented the most was, you know, giving managers and giving GAs, graduate assistants, the opportunity to learn themselves by doing. Just say, hey, throw them a little leash and keep an eye over it, but let them gain confidence by facilitating. And I know you talked about, you know, working on your business versus in your business. We just had a podcast the other day and he was the CEO of a company. And it's basically Uber for lawn mowing. So you can just go on there and, sign up a person to mow their lawn. But anyways, what he says in that episode, he says every single weekend we sat down with our team of 4 people, and he said, no matter what, we sit down for 4 hours and work on the business. He's like, and we're trying to get people, like you said, people who work in the business and people who work on the business. We want to get to that point. And obviously you're tempted to go work in the business because you want to cut your costs or whatever it is. But it's really important to take that time to just work on the development of your business and your culture.
Yeah. Mitch, I appreciate it. Another thing, Jed Dalton again on the call. I think more about Coach Smith now than ever before, because it's like all these things that come up, he would say, you got to start how you finish. Basically, be disciplined to follow out your master plan. So if that is your plan, do you have the discipline? And do you have an accountability partner within your organization? Say, hey, Mitch, you said we're going to work on this for 4 hours every week. We're not doing it. Because if you start saying we're going to do this and you don't follow through and we're going to do this, that breaks down the RTCP. Respect will be broken down. Trust will be broken down. A lack of commitment. And you're not going to develop a positive community, because people are going to be sitting in the water fountain saying, man, here's the next flavor of the month. He's going to start doing this, say we're going to do it every week, and we don't do it every week. So there's going to be a real lack of commitment and positive energy. So these things have to be thought out with your senior leadership team, whoever that may be. I mean, if you're a small shop, it might be all 5 people. And then you get to say, hey, I'll make the final decision, but I want your input. And then I need you to hold me accountable, because I need to do this, but I get sucked into the day-to-day and putting out fires. I need to step back and work on the business. And again, that's what I do as an executive coach with Vistage. David, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, everybody who's presented and commented, great stuff, Coach. Excellent job. Piggybacking on your ball screen defense comment about what you would have with your team, give choices to your employees, your team, whatever applies to you. So you're empowering them, but there are choices that you as the coach, you as the director, you as the person in charge are comfortable with. So, they feel empowered, but at the end of the day, it's one of the decisions that you wanted.
Yeah.
I just really like that. And then
can I interrupt, David? I'm going to interrupt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I that's a great point. And, I remember offering the team, like, do you want steak for pregame meal or chicken? Do you want to wear white shoes at home or dark shoes at home? Do you want to practice at 7 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon? Those kind of decisions, right? That you're okay with either one. You're giving them some input. They feel what is the first most important core value: respect. They feel respected. Creates positive energy. Yeah, go ahead. Keep going, David.
No, I was just going to say, and I'm a big, quote person, but at the end of the day, I'm not a big fan of my job, but you get to go there. You either have to or get to. You get to go to practice or you have to go to practice. And it's a mindset, and it really dictates how your day is going to go, how your practice is going to go, because of that mindset. That's all I have, Coach.
I love it. I love it. It reminds me of something I think Oprah Winfrey said. It's not something that happened to you, it happened for you. It's like me losing my job at North Carolina. That happened for me. I think I'm still trying to embrace that one, yeah. But all right, we've got 5 minutes. Joe Cantello from Lake Norman Church, love Lake Norman Church. And more importantly, well, not more importantly, but NC State grad. Go ahead.
Yes.
We let
Thanks,
all kinds
Matt.
of, talk about diversity. That's diversity.
You're bringing us all together. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Matt. So this is great. I love this group and all the insight that everyone's providing. Just one thing I wanted to share. So I'm in the sales world, and in the sales world, you're basically as good as your number. What you bring in terms of sales. So it's all about results, right? So with my team, I don't want my team to feel like they're just a number, and we're only looking at the results. So we try something called Caught Doing Good. So anything that we can, I see the activity they're doing, I want to highlight that to them and then also to the rest of the team so that they know that, it's not just the end result that we're rewarding, it's all the other things that build up to that. And so that's something that we highlight in our company, and, with my team is Caught Doing Good. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
Yeah, I like it. I like it, Joe. I mean, that's basically about the process, right? It's a cultural thing. It shows that you can do everything right and maybe not still get a sale, but you got to keep doing the process. And Jed Dalton would say, he'd heard Coach Smith say, praise the actions you want repeated. Catch people doing something right. That's good stuff. Really good stuff. We have 3 minutes. Any final comments from anybody?
Hey, Matt, do you mind if I share something based off of what you said about everything happens for you, not to you?
Yeah, go ahead, Ron, of course.
It says, it's a quote, it says, life is simple. Everything happens for you, not to you. Everything happens at exactly the right moment, neither too soon nor too late. You don't have to like it. It's just easier if you do. If you have a problem, it can only be because of your unquestioned thinking. How do you react when you believe that the past should have been different? You scare yourself stuck because what you resist persists. You get to keep your stressful world, a world that doesn't exist except in your imagination. You get to stay in the nightmare. It hurts to oppose reality because in opposing reality, you're opposing your very self.
Wow. Wow. Can you share that? You can send it directly to me, and I'll put it on the. I'll shoot it out there and give you credit, Ron. However you want to do it, but that's pretty deep, and I think we'd all like to see that in print.
No problem. I did that when I was mowing the lawn. I'm just joking.
Listen, guys, I'd rather, one thing, we start on time and we end on time, if not early. Okay. And I don't want to just drag it out. I'm excited about the direction of the Rebound Live webcast. I want this group to continue to grow. I challenge you to bring a friend on, and a friend of either different color or different gender or both, to grow the perspective of our thinking. Thank you very much. Stay tuned for next month's Rebound Live webcast.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.